Go live, okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Hi, thank you to be here, enjoying the last days of this crazy adventure, this pop-up city, Edge City. So, okay, I am Changuito, for who don't know me. I am the co-founder of NetX State, and we are leading the Regen House, one of the residency here in Edge City. This idea to make this wrap-up or alienation to present awesome projects that are around Edge City, around the regeneration, what is and how are we doing. So the idea of this little space, this panel, is to talk, to hear and learn and see how we can align the regeneration, the models, the governance and financial strategy, how we can align together with different projects that we are doing here. So the idea is to present 4 projects, and after that we will do a little panel to open the discussion and to open the mic to everyone to discuss a little bit about what is this regeneration. So we will give the first space to, if I'm not forgetting anything, maybe we can start with the first one, with this Adina Popescu. Bravo applause for her, please.
Thank you. Hello. I don't. Is this working? It's working, right?
Yeah, the pointer. It's here. So check if it's working. In this direction, over there.
Oh.
Is it plugged in? Wait. No, wait. Here is this one. Yeah, this one.
Nice. So whales in space, just because. Kind of unrelated, but still. Oh. All right. So my name is Adina, and I started this project, to be very honest, 8 years ago. I always say 5, but it's actually 8. And it was DeSci before DeSci. Now it's DeSci. And I would like to start with a story about our planet, because we always use the terms regenerative finance, regeneration, impact, but we often don't really have the link to planet Earth and how actually our ecosystems are working. And so there was this project where a lot of investors wanted to jump on immediately. It was a suggestion, I think, by German engineers to cover all of the Sahara with solar panels, and that would have generated an incredible amount of clean energy. Wait, what's going on? Luckily, somebody had an Earth systems model, and in that Earth systems model, we could see that the Amazon rainforest would actually collapse. And not only would the Amazon rainforest collapse, actually the entire coast, all the way up to the Gulf of Mexico, the coastal region would collapse as well. Why is that? Because the Amazon rainforest every day produces the equivalent of hundreds of thousands of hydrogen bombs per day in energy, and it generates a climate so powerful that it governs the winds of the northern and southern hemisphere, and with that it creates a wind tunnel every day to the Sahara and pulls Saharan sand over the ocean every day, because the phosphorus and the silicates are fertilizing the Amazonian soil, as well as the food web on the coast. So needless to say, we have an interconnected planet. So our natural living systems are interconnected dynamic systems, yet our data models are generally not. And if we now go down, further down, what we cannot see from satellites, which is our biosphere, which are, molecular feedback loops, mycelial signaling, species interdependencies, that's where we really don't have dynamic models, and yet it's a living system. So the challenge with that is that there are often climate solutions that are refinanced by carbon credits. They propose to, for example, dump iron into the ocean, then trigger massive phytoplankton blooms, which then would absorb carbon and then refinance through carbon credits. But what actually happened is that it created toxic algae blooms, hypoxic dead zones, and disrupted the entire food web. So there's something that the planet does that when we imitate it, it doesn't quite work. The challenge right now is that people are like, well, but there's satellites, right? If we have satellites, we know what's going on. Not exactly. The challenge with climate models and satellites is that they're physics models. They're showing us CO2, methane, land use change, soil moisture, but we don't really understand what's happening in the soil. We don't understand the soil biome. We don't understand a reef system and its complexity and intradependencies and causalities within living systems. In other words, 95% of Earth and ocean data is not ready for machine learning. That is because all the research that is happening on the coast and that's happening on the Earth is completely siloed away in hundreds of institutions that we have built, researchers that are not sharing their data because of a lack of incentive to share the data and the research because they want to be published in Nature or they don't want, they want to be quoted for their research. This is, of course, a good moment for blockchain, for traceability and transferability and collaboration. So what I did is I kind of started alone because I was so shocked that we were basically investing in solutions without actually knowing the ripple effects and outcomes of our investments or of our actions. And I found that very shocking because we actually don't really understand our planet and our interconnectivity with it. So I started going from Ocean Institute to Ocean Institute, and I started to talk to them, trying to understand why are you not actually sharing all these incredible research data streams. Every research institute, and I think in Western Australia, they have billions in funding, they have submersibles, they have sensors, we don't have to send people out necessarily to take photos or to collect data. There's a huge abundance of data in the main coastal regions. But the data is not standardized, metadata is not standardized, there's no shared language. So at this point, I think we onboarded 13 large oceanographic institutions on several countries and major coasts, from Western Australia to Mozambique, Kenya. Now 9 countries in Africa are coming and joining, and it's all about basically trying to understand how can we make ground data interoperable. Why is that important? Right now, what is happening, people take satellite models or a climate model, they input ground data, but now you have a snapshot in time and you don't have a dynamic model that produces ongoing outcomes. Why do we not need ongoing outcomes? For causal inference models, for understanding ripple effects and causalities on interventions, to simulate scenarios for solutions, but also to create nature-backed assets, right? I'm going to jump over this real quick. So what we did is we did a first test case, and this is just a simulation, but we did a test case in Western Australia where we united, like there's 3 large institutions here, they're not sharing data right now. We basically created a data sharing protocol, and then we set basically with 10 marine biologists, oceanographers, etc. together, and we started linking and creating a graph system where we're basically linking all the interdependencies, biophysical as well as biodiversity, within the reef system. So now that would mean that there's a shared model where everybody who basically goes out, takes their sensors, their measurements, they're basically inputting that now into the system, and the system starts learning and calculating based on the causality. There's no evidence that you can throw a bunch of raw data at a causal inference model and it will understand the causality of a complex living system. So that allowed us to create one scenario. We looked at where the last heat wave hit the biosphere, this very specific biosphere of Ningaloo Reef. That was in 2011. Now, because we had the correlations, we were able to correlate temperature, general health with biodiversity, and we could see how the biodiversity is dropping. I'm fast forwarding now. Eventually it recovers, but it never recovers to where it was before. So now we already know from the climate model that the next heat wave is going to be around 2027. So now we could actually prepare and understand how to actually in a very targeted ways stabilize the reef. So there's a lot of conversations. I think Trent is talking about like a world model, and I think the tension is always how can we scale as fast as possible to a global model and a global understanding without losing the bioregional specificity. And I think this is really the tension to figure out. Right now what we're doing is by onboarding all these different countries into the same standardization protocol and same incentives. We're trying to see how we can open source most of the frameworks so that they can simultaneously build them out and then connect them with, like Kaggle style, with basically different machine learning people online so that they can run, build models for them and based on their data. But the idea is to have an understanding of a baseline of what biodiversity is, what impact is, and therefore to actually truly understand regenerative finance, driving funding into regeneration, and to also understand the value and the ecosystem services from living systems rather than when they're extracted from. I'm shorting this because this is, different people we're working with, partnerships. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Adina. Monty, it's your turn. Come here, co-founder of ReFi DAO. Happy birthday! Happy birthday!
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. All right, cool. I'm gonna point this at the thing. It's working. Okay, here we go. So that was amazing. I love Adina's work so much, and so grateful to have met her and be connected to all the amazing things she's doing. We had the word bioregional in the name of this, and Adina speaks about it as well. And so I dug up some slides I have and want to talk about that a bit more and how that connects with the finance side. I think it'll be interesting, just like a raise of hands, who has heard of the bioregional movement or knows what a bioregion is? All right, I'd say like almost half, but definitely not the whole room. So it might be worth just going into it a little bit. So we're all very used to dividing up the planet in these nation-state boundaries that have often been drawn in political, colonial histories and cause an awful lot of conflict in the world. But actually there's a different way of defining place and regions, and that is like the bioregional model. And it's been around for several decades now, and there are actual, basically the whole world can be divided in this way. But it's not like a rigid boundary. It's more defined by the actual watersheds, the ecology, the drainage basin, and other geological features, but also the social and cultural history of that place to create this kind of flexible boundary that isn't just defined by some white man drawing lines on a map. And so it's really rooted and grounded in the contextual place, which is really important when we're talking about planetary intelligence. We're talking about place-based intelligence, and that is rooted in the bioregion and the people that have inhabited that bioregion sometimes for thousands and thousands of years. And so what's exciting is, although the bioregional movement has been around for a while, and there are many amazing bioregional organizations, what's slightly newer is this term of BioFi and bioregional finance, more buzzwords, but very much a part of the kind of ReFi, regenerative finance movement. And it's really a kind of place-based, more decentralized approach of managing financial resources. Instead of having one global institution that is managing all of the flows of finance all over the globe and in a centralized top-down way, actually how do we create new systems of institutions and governance rooted in those bioregions, made up of local people and local groups who have that local intelligence, that planetary bioregional intelligence, and help them in guiding, using that kind of knowledge to guide capital allocation and guiding that towards the regeneration of that bioregion. And so if that sounds interesting to you, there's a wonderful book written by Samantha Power called Bioregional Finance for Planetary Regeneration, kind of introduces this context in more depth. And I love this graphic, which I think explains it really well. It's how do we create these new kinds of, this new layer in the global financial architecture that seems to be missing, which is this community-led, bioregional scale kind of institutions that can then guide the financial resources we have. There's so much capital that exists, and we need to unlock it to flow in a kind of textually grounded way to the actual people on the ground. And if we don't do that, if we do it with the same systems and centralized models and neoliberal kind of thinking that we've done, we're just going to repeat the same patterns of extraction that we have in the legacy systems today. So we need to design these new institutional structures to actually govern the regenerative transition that we need, the trillions of dollars of capital that need to flow if we have any chance of saving this planet. And I think what's also really cool is that there's kind of like an inherent kind of complementary synergy between, or at least ideological philosophical alignment with the bioregional movement and certain aspects of Web3. You know, in Web3 we talk about decentralization, about, you know, rooting power in different places. And so that kind of decentralized empowerment is a really good fit for what the bioregional movement has already been trying to do. That kind of emphasis on community governance, new forms of governance, and these kind of concepts. So I think there's a really strong fit for the Web3 community to kind of partner with this bioregional movement and provide some of the tools and technologies that we've been building in the space, applying that at the bioregional scale. And so bringing bioregions on chain is going to be cool. And I think Adina's work is really kind of laying some foundations for that. And so yeah, what does that look like in practice? I think we can take any manner of planet positive actions that there might be, from forestry, agriculture, clean energy, and Adina's wonderful Earth models to really understand what is going on. And that's this kind of MRV layer of, okay, things are going on in the world, how do we digitize it? How do we really understand using an array of different technologies? And then we can bring that on chain and actually create the financial incentives where we're channeling the resources to where the most impact is happening. But we need to have that intelligence layer to understand where the real impact is and how best to allocate capital, and how do we empower the bioregional organizations and local communities to have that technology to do that, and then empower them with the resources to allocate it. And I won't steal Holke's thunder, but next we'll hear about an exciting primitive, which I think builds on top of, once we have the intelligence, how do we create the right types of financial primitives to fund the work and actually incentivize and kind of really accelerate this transition. And I'm very excited about the kind of Hypercerts as a next generation primitive to fund this regenerative economy. And to close up, I think this is a nice kind of summary slide of really what we're trying to do here. Once we can gain this planetary intelligence, we should be able to allocate financial resources, empowering these bioregional organizations and other local community institutions to then allocate that capital with the planetary intelligence, with the technology, to the actual people and projects on the ground. And then we need these sophisticated mechanisms for measuring the impact, pooling it in some form of data commons, and actually reporting what's going on so we can restart the loop and attract more financial resources and create that sort of flywheel that's hopefully going to unfuck the planet. So yeah, that's my talk. Thank you.
Thanks, Monty. Okay, Holke, welcome, founder of Hypercerts. Thank you.
Cool, thank you. I will give a brief introduction to Hypercerts and the Hypercerts protocol. This is like an incomplete set of slides that I'm preparing right now, but I give you a few insights already into kind of the narrative that we are building right now and the new technology, or like the like what we are rebuilding as Hypercerts v0.2. And it really comes out of this kind of like, sometimes when I listen to economic discussions, I feel like we discuss in a little bubble of the Overton window, where we discuss basically similar to, we are still in the 90s, discussing about the market against the state. And we actually, with the technology that we have today, we can actually move way beyond that and have many more interesting discussions around how we actually create the world and the societies that we want to live in. Because the economic system that we have today is really good at translating willingnesses to pay and individual preferences into price signals, and those price signals then kind of govern supply and demand, and that's like super powerful, potentially too powerful. But what it all forgets is, how do we actually aggregate collective preferences and collective willingnesses to pay for collective goods, public goods, common goods. And so what I believe is that we can actually move from like simple price systems and policy systems into more sense-making networks. And when I say sense-making networks, this really means that we together can perceive, evaluate, and fund what we collectively value. So, and this is where kind of Hypercerts as one Lego block really comes in. So this was basically the kind of the high-level framing, because I'm a political economist and like to talk about this, the bigger picture. But when we look at what we need to do is we need to identify the work that is potentially impactful. That is at the core of a Hypercert. So Hypercert is an impact certificate. And first, we need to know what is the object that might be valuable to us. So this can be a land regeneration project, which in this context is really relevant. Or it could be open source software. It could be journalism. It could be a community event. And then we need to have the ability to add evidence to it, measurements to it, and also subjective evaluations of, is this really what we consider value? And then if we have identified that, then in the third step, we can connect it with the funding mechanisms that we can build on top of it. Can be retroactive funding, can be crowdfunding, can be grants, can be price competition, it doesn't matter. But we really need to have this discussion about value and collective preferences first. So how this looks in the, with the infrastructure that we are building, some of you might know Hypercerts from the first version. That was kind of the version that everything was kind of connected to a token. In this new version, we are decoupling the data layer from the token. So that enables us to have non-tokenized Hypercerts and a more flexible kind of data layer that isn't restricted to, okay, everything is on-chain, immutable, because some things we actually want to have mutable. So we are building on @Proto. @Proto is the protocol underlying Blue Sky. And this is interesting because when you think of a social media post, that is, can be, in theory, like a statement about an impact claim. A reply to that impact claim is similar to an evaluation. So that evaluation can be unstructured data, just a PDF, or it can be structured data, how we evaluate something. So, and the protocol actually allows us to define lexicons. These are schemas that are shared across multiple different platforms. It allows projects or evaluators to host their own data. So it can also be hosted by the Hypercerts Foundation, for example. And if you sign up as a project, you use us as your hosting provider, but you can also self-host it. And this is important because we believe that the data, that your data should belong to you if you want to. Then in the next step, it gets aggregated in a relay server, and then different platforms, in this case here as examples, ÄRTH and Gainforest, can use that data, and they can use that data from anywhere. So that's a nice thing, that projects now are in control of their data, and they don't need to input their data on different platforms over and over again. And so the projects can basically interact with all of these platforms. And then optionally, this data can be anchored on chain, just with an attestation, or it can be tokenized if you want to connect it directly to a funding mechanisms where you can actually now sell your impact. So you could, if you have a project, you can sell 20% of your impact to somebody else that is able then to claim, I hold 20% of the impact of this project, which allows the owner of that impact to basically use that as a proof to their stakeholders, which could be their employees, their investors, state regulation, or self-regulation from an industry. And what we are currently doing is we are building out this protocol, and then there are two main use cases that we try to support in the beginning, which are also relevant for this discussion on planetary intelligence. That's ÄRTH and Gainforest, or Gainforest building ecocertain.xyz. So these are, in the beginning, crowdfunding platforms to fund land projects. And that allows then basically to have the projects and the evaluation data, as shown on the previous slide, to live kind of in this decentralized off-chain layer, to be tokenized and sold to funders. And then with that, we have basically a data layer to kind of really power these funding systems and go far beyond just crowdfunding. Because when you think about it, in the world today, when you fill out a grant application, you already use ChatGPT or other tools to fill out your application. In the next step, you just have your AI agent who fills out basically everything by themselves, or even goes out into the internet and finds funding opportunities, fills out everything, and you just confirm that you actually want to apply to that grant. On the other hand, funders will get a lot of different applications and they also use AI to like sort and select who actually should get funding. In the hopeful case, this means that the narrative is irrelevant or becomes irrelevant because everybody will have a beautiful narrative. And again, in the hopeful case, this will mean that what really matters is the verifiable data that you can provide your AI agent to fundraise for you. So that is kind of a first step where we enable projects today to use this kind of infrastructure to build out a data layer that will also work for a funding system of tomorrow. And I think that's it. Yeah, that's it. Thank you. And yeah, looking forward to questions later.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Holke. Okay, I will start telling about what was my motivation to build the next state the thing that we are building right now. I came from so far away from Buenos Aires, which is where there are not the same opportunities and there is in the other big countries and big cities. During my life, I realized that a lot of things in the big economies, they take, for example, some kind of metrics that they are not useful for everyone. This is one thing. And the other things, and there is a thing that we felt like in the place where there is a lot of nature. It's like the whole big cities has been and they are building with the whole nature, and they are so extractivist. And this is like it was so easy to see, to feel that where the place where I come from, and even right now we discovered that these kind of systems around the world and we live it in a strong way in Argentina or maybe last 40, 50 or 100 years in Argentina. We are only creating these kind of problems that we are seeing right now, and maybe they were useful, but we are in the moment where the people we can see that it's not working so well, this kind of system. So these are the main things, more thinking in most globally aspect, thinking in which are the main problems that we are living. We discovered that we are getting discovered. We are in this new era of conscientious people. We are discovering that we have to take care of the nature. This is one of the things because the nature is the place where is where the resources come from. And we discovered that the maybe the institutional, it doesn't work. We need it because, and if you think on these two aspects, it's like the institutions and are taking from the nature, and we are into a cycle like degenerative. I don't know if it exists this word, sorry, but this degenerative cycle where we are getting worse and worse and worse. So okay, we have to try to work and build something new, because it's like the system like this, it doesn't work. We learn it here in Argentina. So with NetX State, we envision with my co-founder Franz, we came envisioning thinking how we can build this new infrastructure to create this something that could be useful for everyone in the world, to trying to think how it could be useful to take in the culture, to take in the nature, to take in the base of the things. Sorry, I came in one back here. Other aspect that is how I see the things. I understood that the system is using the energy of the people and the resource and the energy of the people. It's not only the resource. The system is using the energy of the people. We are kind of battery of the big system. We are using, and they are measuring us between our mobile phone. They are taking the whole energy from us. So you can come back and you charge your phone, and you are being, someone has your measurable KPIs. How many times do you use your phone? So we are a kind of battery. So it's not only resource about nature, it's about culture and people too. This is important. Why I'm telling that? Because in this thing that we thought in this infrastructure, to build this infrastructure, to thinking, okay, we want to create a physical space, like we're thinking in the land, thinking in like human people, conscientious people in the body, not citizen first, human first, conscientious people, spiritual, mind, body, in the land, interacting with the 4 elements, with the nature, fire, water, soil, and air. These 4 elements, because with these 4 elements of the nature, we are interacting with this value, and we are creating the value with that. So this is the physical layer, how we can start building the physical infrastructure, the critical infrastructure to live and to design to live for maybe the next 100 of years. After that, we have to think in the legal layer, which is like in the middle. So we have the land, we have the people, so we need to trust to each other. So this is the legal layer. And we are thinking, okay, we have the old legal frameworks, like the old ones, maybe the old, like we are using the same one, the actual, and the new one. So let's start to thinking which are the new legal framework that they will be useful for the next future. Maybe there are ones that they are so old, maybe they are someone that we have to create the new one. And the other thing is like we have to think in like the legal layer is the layer we have to use it to connect the digital with the physical, with the digital. We have to make this connection between these 2 layers. So the legal has to be connected with the physical. Sometimes nowadays we have like the legal layers are using the logic from the old system. They are not really connected with the digital layer. So we have to try to design the new infrastructure to connect the legal layer with the physical and the legal layer with the digital. And in the digital layer, the idea is to create a governance platform, regenerative governance platform, that allow us to take decision in follow this vision, follow the vision of regenerative. Which are the decisions, which are the metrics that we have to take. Or my friends Adina, Monty, and Holke has been talking, which are these metrics that we have to take to connect from the physical to the digital without forgetting the legal layer. So this is like the main infrastructure, how are we thinking? And our next step, our next big challenge that we are thinking is like how we can create the first Regen city, maybe in La Patagonia, maybe in Cordoba, or wherever. So the idea is we put this image because it's like this image came from the Venus project. The Venus project is like is from Jack Fresco. He thought a lot of things in terms of the new economy, in terms of the new way of living, taking the resources and creating abundance, not destructing, with the solar pan vision. It has more than 30 or 40 years, these kind of things, only taking this as a vision, no? Trying to go on that. So how we can design a Regen city in the Patagonia or whatever with this idea to create the new regenerative strategy. What else? Right now, I'm going deeper on something that is really, really new. We are thinking in these 3 points because it's so important and so difficult. Because when we say, okay, we want to create a private neighborhood, for example, we want to create a city, but when we turn around to go to talk with the investor will say, okay, how do you wanna make money? Okay, I have to. So you came back into the whole system, and the whole system works with the logic of the regenerative things. So the challenge is how we can create something new without use extractive logic. So this is for me right now in these weeks maybe, and I think it's for us, is how we can design a new model without be extractivist. So this is the main point. It's so difficult because the whole world works in a way extractivist way. So it's difficult to think about. We have to delete everything and try to think it again. So the thing that we are thinking is like to divide the thinkings in governance, tokenization, and traceability. governance to take decisions, to say, okay, how we can coordinate, how we can take decisions, how we can organize one organization on multiple organizations, working with the land, with the people in consistent way, thinking in tokenization, but not the tree-led tokenization, because we know that tokenization, it could be the same system, but thinking in tokenization as a way to track, to make the following things and to transfer the value. This is the logic, the tokenization, and with the traceability and impact, like the baseline that Adina was mentioning. Okay, we came to this land. This is the land. So what we have in this land, which are the resources that we have in this land, and we have to try to create something. We have to try to create a new model of living without destroy the land. In the opposite, we have to try to live in together with the land, with the territory, and with the people. So finishing so this is the idea, is where we are working right now to this strategy. So that's it. This is the thing that we are working out right now. I hope that I could explain the main idea. Okay. I would like to invite you, Adina, Holke, and Monty, to sit down the floor, and the idea is to interact with you all and hear your questions, ping pong ideas, share things. So okay, thank you for this first stage. Thank you. Okay, who wanna? Monty, you raised your hand. You want to start with saying something?
Questions. I think we've only got like 15 minutes left, so I'd love to invite the audience if anything's resonating or any particular ideas, and we can kind of spark off that.
I don't think that mic works.
Hello, hello. Now does it work? Hello. Yeah. Well, you go first. Okay, for Changuito, my question is, out of the 4 stages that you should show in the last panel, where are you guys at?
In this moment?
Yeah.
We are looking. We have designed the whole infrastructure in the strategic way, like the whole vision, and we are looking for lands to start designing. So the next step is like to try to design the model with the financial model, as I was mentioning, to say, okay, how we start designing the regenerative models, which are, because it's like when you design a business plan, you have to, a master plan, sorry, like when you private neighborhood or a city, it could be similar, different, but in kind of way the thing is legal. When you think on that, you have to think in different business models, like you can think in it in the old ways, like a kind of shopping, how we can think in solar panel shopping. It's like you need the energy, you need the I don't know, the energy, the land, different things. So we have to try to think in these different solar panel models or regenerative models, and try to put it together and go to combines the investor to try to invest on that. Is easy? No, it's not easy, but we are on this point.
Thanks. Yeah, I mean, I think the core conflict of all of this is always, how do you make people put money here? And obviously we have governments and there's pots of money that already exist, but this is the old world, right? Like where some governments came together and say, hey, we have to put this money aside for X, Y, Z. But blockchain has this really nice quality that you can align interests even though they are not actually directly aligned. Same like a validator of a network is not actually interested in what's happening on the network. They're only interested in getting the token, and the user want to use the network for whatever purpose, so they give value to the token by creating a demand. So this is an orthogonal alignment which somehow works really well. And with these things, because what I'm seeing also, what you have in the chart is, okay, we tokenize the land, we say here there's this blah, blah, blah trees here, and now this has value. The question is, why does it have value? And does it need to be tradable? And does it need to be, the question is, how can we create a system that makes people want to put money there without that it's necessarily a carbon coin or something, which obviously doesn't really work either. And like, what could be a model that allows for these things to function properly. And I haven't so far really seen any.
I can speak to that. I think what happened, what changed for us, where the traction immediately came in, was when people started talking about biodiversity credits, and it became clear that it is really hard to understand biodiversity from single metrics, because in the past, in the old world, you basically have this idea of MRV, where you have a market that basically defines that there's already a value, so then you basically put it on the projects to figure out how to dig out soil carbon or whatever it is, and then feed back that data, but it doesn't really say anything about the equilibrium or balance of the entire system. And so now there's this new efforts, and it's like an explosion. There's really big groups that are looking at nature-backed assets, nature banks, biodiversity credits.
How would they work? Like if I, for example, say there's a token that represents, I don't know, a square footage of trees.
That doesn't work that way. It would have to be a bioregion. So that's our approach. You need to have a bioregion. If you just take a square foot of trees, it doesn't really say anything, right? So you need to create some semantic understanding of value, and then you can quantify and you can say, hey, this is how much this is in risk. This is how much this is in food security. This is how much this is in flood protection. And now you have a value that is actually allocating value to living systems rather than extractive
But
logic.
then why would somebody buy it?
And then once you have that understanding of what's actually going on, this is where the Hypercerts can come in to actually tokenize the impact that's going on. So then there can be a holistic understanding of impact, and then you're channeling resources to impact. And in terms of why people would buy it, I think I have a thesis that actually we're going to see trillions and trillions of dollars flow in this direction. I mean, otherwise our planet doesn't really have a choice. So we kind of have the choice of either trillions of dollars from the legacy system flows into trying to regenerate the planet, or we won't have a planet. And I tend to think,
question it. People also buy meme coins, so people buy anything. But I
yeah,
would like to
yeah.
understand what you guys
well,
think.
I think we saw in COVID, when the immediacy of the threat is there, like much capital flows, and like things change all around the globe. So I think as the climate crisis continues to heat up and our planetary systems continue to break down, I think we're going to see this switch where there's trillions of dollars that capital that exists in governments, in corporations, in private individuals, and I think we're going to see it's already heating up a lot. The space, I think you're feeling that. There's a lot of things that are
to translate that, the idea is philanthropic capital is the capital.
It's all sources of capital.
I'm pretty sure philanthropy will not save us. So I think your question is absolutely valid, and I think it's like the core question that the space has to answer. So, and I think in today's world, we can kickstart some of these things with philanthropy. So I think for that, philanthropy can be good. And then I think there can be incentives for companies and other organizations to fund this if their stakeholders want to see this being funded. So for example, a tech company could fund open source software because their own employees are open source fans. And oftentimes that's actually the case. Or you have an industry agreement that in the tech industry to fund open source software. So this could be like self-regulation, or it could be state regulation in the current system. And I think all of these, and then the third way how it could be funded is directly through governments if they would buy kind of the impact as a collective that is existing already. But I believe that the current way we kind of organize kind of collective funding is really outdated, because it's like we basically try to translate our individual preferences for collective goods into kind of funding via like voting every 4 years. And that's like extremely coarse. And I think we can do that in a much more fine-grained way. And that means we would need to update the institutions that govern kind of our collective willingnesses to pay for these goods. And currently, we already have like massive amounts of money going through governments. So it's not that we are not doing this already. We are just doing that in a very bureaucratic and slow and inefficient way. So, and I think if we think about governments as just like an outdated way of collective action, then can we replace that step by step with more efficient ways? Can we basically show governments that the way we want to fund nature or open source software via these new vehicles and how we align our individual preferences for collective goods, then we step by step go more into this direction. And this is not kind of just against governments. It's actually working with governments to slowly but surely update how we kind of work through these mechanisms, because collective goods is like, I mean, it's many of the things that we actually want are collective goods and not just individual goods. That would be my answer, but I think that the question is the question that we also, like how this looks in detail, have to like work through via like experimentation and like lots of different attempts to do it. Feder.
I have a question, but maybe if I can just give my 30 cents, my 3 cents on this, because I share 100% the vision. I'm convinced it's going to happen, but I also share a frustration as someone who's been following carbon markets for a decade and a half. And the reality is we're still 10 years again away, because if you think about it from the demand side, I mean, carbon credits in a way are the cutting edge of this. And companies themselves, where the demand for this type of credits will come from, are still learning how to build their carbon inventories and their footprint. Half of it is total bullshit, right? But the software is coming, the skills are getting in place, and so we're still years away from demand to really be there. And on the supply side, these technologies, the MRV technologies, the capabilities also on the ground, the infrastructure that needs to get built, the Hypercerts, everything's still getting built. So we need to lower the costs as well. We need to include traceability and verification. But I'm with you. I'm 100% sure it will happen, right? This leads to my next question, because I mean, I fucking love your projects. I was, Adina, wow, it's so cool. You and I had lunch. I want to do a deep dive on financing mechanisms, and you guys are bridging the global with the global, yeah. So I love your projects, but it's very evident that you've been pioneers, and you said 8 years, right? And we're still a decade away from all of this, right? So what do you see as your next hurdle for the next year, right? Like what is the next big challenge that you guys need to get through? And where are you getting the resources or energies to bridge that time between today and 5 years, 6 years, 7 years from now, when it will actually finally make sense, right?
So what is, I think, our biggest, how do you call it, like a loophole that we have to move through is to understand how we can actually scale those digital twins from coast to coast. Right now, because right now the demand is so big, and every country from Panama to everybody we're working with wants a self-sovereign, data self-sovereign management system of their shared resources and ecosystems. And hopefully, what I would like to show is my idea is to actually start with small island nations, to have a less complex environment, smaller territory, and then actually show how dynamic models can now create all kinds of indexes and outcomes that can be tokenized or monetized. So that's our path forward, and that's what I'm doing right now.
Maybe taking back from the question from your side, it's like the things and the system and the nature, it's moving forward. We are going, and there is anytime there is a lot of things with the climate, with this with people, with the society, with the nation happening, good things and bad things. So the thing that we are presenting here is vision that we have, because vision is in its number, because sometimes like we have more than the 50% of the commodities of the resources that we have. It depend on the nature. So it's like the nature is the start and is the finish. It's the way that we are going. So we have to definitely think on how we can live with the nature. So your question is a really good question. So how we can do it? And taking back to the Fede's question, if you allow me to dream, I would like to dream in. I think there is a lot of people that they are seeing this and they know that it is happening. So there is people who has money and they are seeing how that we have to change the value of the things and detect the new real value and the new real value. And we had it here in Argentina with inflation. We lost the value of the money. We had more than 100% of inflation monthly maybe. So you are wasting all your life, your time to try to get back your energy. You are losing your energy, your life energy. You are losing, and this is getting bigger, and bigger. We live it in a so strongly way. So if and there is more people and investors that they are looking for that. If I can dream on that, I would like to dream in start designing a neighborhood where the people can live in a solar panel way with conscious people, technology for the human, and align with the nature, and have these friends around the world working in the technological part, going to and expanding the things, like expanding the in the case of Adina, in terms of this index, this model of index, the biometrics, biodiversity index, sorry, of the ÆRTH, with Holke about the protocol working in interoperability in this kind of different system, and Monty traveling around the world, spreading the word with the different local communities around the world. So if I can imagine and dream something, it could be this dream.
I think what we really need to do is to show that the system works better than what we have today. And the problem that I see is that we need to, like, for regenerative projects, we actually need hundreds of thousands of projects that are run by people who are really connected to the ground, to the planet. And that's why these are projects that actually don't scale. So these are not 5 big projects that we need to finance. And that is kind of the challenge that currently we have. Kind of, it's called like the missing middle of financing, because you have huge institutional investors or funding agencies, and then you have microfinance. But in the middle, you have the places where it's too expensive to do a good due diligence for the amount of money that the project actually needs. So can we have kind of like, and this goes into like kind of the sense-making network, can we aggregate evaluations, for example, like cheap satellite imagery that can be analyzed together with a community evaluation that a project probably should get funding? And can we have that as a scaled up model, how we distribute large amounts of money to a lot of projects? And this is what I call kind of the fast feedback loop of like, okay, this is how we distribute money. And then can we have a slower feedback loop, a scientific analysis of actually this works, or this works, but it could be even better if we would do it like this or that. And if we do that with, let's say, tens of millions from philanthropic funders that are distributed in this way, and we prove that we now are able to create a system that is in itself self-improving, so that we have these slow, fast evaluations, the slow evaluations. We know over time better and better, okay, we actually should add bioacoustics for the biodiversity, or we should add this, and we know how to actually create a system that improves itself. Then I think we can go to the bigger funders and work our way to the institutional funders who currently we don't have the answer of, like, if somebody wants to give us like 20 millions, like, sure, I would have really good ideas how to like use that money, but we don't currently have a really good mechanism where like, okay, put your money here, we distribute it, and we can show you that it really worked. So if we are there, then it really can scale up. So that's I think what we need to do next.
Yeah, I would just double down on that to say, yeah, I think we've had some good success raising from some initial seed funders and from the blockchain space, well connected there. And we're just now starting to have the conversation with these much larger institutions, foundations, and things like that. And just as Holke says, we need to make sure that the tech and the systems, like, there's so much potential there. We know that there's this vision of building the next generation systems, do it better than governments, you know, all the kind of stuff we're building here. And we're starting to see those case studies where we can really prove it and show it. And that's when I think we can scale up into, you know, many tens of millions and kind of flow that through that next generation systems. But I think we're sort of almost there, but not quite. And so it'll be kind of, yeah, crucial over the next few years to see how that evolves. Because all this stuff moves slower than you want it to, especially when you start having the conversation with with governments or with institutions. You think it's going to happen, and it's like, okay, it was going to take longer than we thought. So, yeah. I think we're at time here, no? Or but maybe there's another question. No. Cool. Thank you. Yeah. Thanks so much, everyone.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, March, thank you for coming. Thank you, Adina. Thank you, Holke, and thank you, Monty.